What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of FanDuel Friday. I am your host, TJ Zwarych, ready to give you some Spidey bombs, give you some stacks, and of course, break down some pitchers that are going to help you win some tournaments today on FanDuel. I am joined, as always, by my good buddy, Justin Carlucci. How you doing?
What's up, dude? Good to see you. You're making some good home run calls. I'm making some good home run calls. Maybe we'll make some home run calls at the end of the show and see what we can put together. Looking forward to this FanDuel slate today. There's no Coors game. There's no Dodgers Cubs win game, which is earlier in the afternoon. Don't have to worry about those. There's some hypothetical snow in Minnesota, though. So I don't know. It just seems like we have a jam packed show, even without some of those things.
Look, the snow in Minnesota does not surprise me because I'm in Saskatchewan, which is just basically right over top Minnesota in Saskatchewan, Canada. Uh, a couple of states there in the middle, but pretty darn close. And we had like 60-degree weather for a few days over the last week, and then we just got hit with a pile of snow over the last couple days. So it makes sense that Minnesota is going to be getting it as well. But yeah, the home run calls have just been crazy, Luuch. You've been wildly hot. I've been hot. The turd bombs are going like they always do. We've been putting up some good home run picks content lately. So make sure you hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. I got to trust you guys to hit that like button for me to give away the Spidey bombs. So if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like button. And let's get into this. Before we start talking about stacks, before we give out some home run calls, let's talk about pitching because we have up top Shohei Ohtani at 11-4. He's the top pitcher on the board today, but he's priced like it. Now we also have Aaron Nola at a significant discount, $2,100 on FanDuel. And if you look at the RG projections, we got Ohtani a little bit higher. You look at the bat, we got Nola a little bit higher. I personally like Ohtani better, but you also do have to pay up for him. I think from a cash game standpoint, you're probably going to Nola today.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw Matt Strom absolutely shove, and he gave up an early bomb yesterday, struck out 11 Rockies. Thought maybe the Rockies would be a little tired. They got the break speed off them by the Pirates in Colorado. Then they traveled backwards across a couple time zones here, but I didn't expect Matt Strom to shove like that. Slow start for Nola. He's a tough guy to figure out, but if there's ever a get right spot, it's the Rockies on the road playing on the East Coast today, TJ. So I like that call. And for Ohtani, I was really hoping Franmil Reyes would be in the lineup for Kansas City because he's a strikeout machine. But it looks like he's having a baby too. So he's out of the lineup today. So I still like Ohtani quite a bit. And he had that weird little range shortened start 5 days ago or whatever his last turn was against Boston. But I have no issues pitching Ohtani today if you can make your lineup fit. But per dollar, like Nola is the play, I think, here. My pool would be really condensed today, TJ. I'm not sure exactly what I'm playing, but I like those two so much more than almost every other option we have here, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to spread out a little bit, but like on other sites, it's definitely a lot more condensed. Or sorry, on other sites, it's a lot more spread out than I am on FanDuel today. On FanDuel, it's a lot more condensed because they did a wonderful job of pricing these pitchers today. And so if I'm playing 150 lineups, which is something I usually do, George Kirby, Tyler Mahle, Hunter Brown, Zach Gallen, and Freddie Peralta are all going to be in my pool. These guys are all going to be sub 5%, every single one of them except for Mahle. And so because of that, like I'm planning on probably doubling the field on all of those guys. Ohtani would be for sure my highest owned. Nola, I'd maybe try and get a little under the field in tournaments, but maybe not by a ton. I don't think I need to go to a guy like Zach Plesac today. It's Zach Plesac. You know, that weather's ugly. Maybe there's going to be a delay. Maybe it gets postponed. I'm not trying to play Zach Plesac today. The lowest I would go in an MME setting would be George Kirby, and the lowest I'd go in like a 3-entry max or a 10-entry max or even a single entry setting would be John Gray. Gray's played pretty well this year, and the Oakland just sucks. Like, that's why we got to look at Gray. That's why we got to look at Mahle because it's Washington. That's why we love Nola because it's Colorado. And then guys like Peralta and Gallen, Kirby, tough matchups, but very, very good pitchers. And so I'm willing to take some shots on them.
Oakland's so bad they're picking up and moving to Las Vegas. There's that narrativiness going on with Oakland and how the fans want to, pack the stadium all of a sudden now. But where was the support the last 2.5 to 3 years when they're paying people to come to their darn games? It's almost like too little, too late. I do feel for Oakland and the the OG hardcore fans, and you had the Warriors moving around out there, and now the A's are picking up and literally moving to a different state. In the future, it seems like they're heading to Vegas. That's what the chatter is, and I don't know, but they just don't have a very good baseball team. We know that much. So, do I want to use John Gray tonight? I don't know. He hasn't really shown us much. We know he's talented, though. We've seen it in the past when he's been away from cores. So I think John Gray. I think for me, it's Ohtani, Nola, and John Gray. I don't really want to go anywhere else here for tournaments. In my opinion, that's probably what I'm going to do.
Yeah, those will definitely be my 3 highest owned as well, but I'm going to be looking to sprinkle in a little bit more than that. And one of the things I'm going to do to combat the amount of pitchers I want to sprinkle in is, like, usually when I'm running 150 lineups, I try and get like at least a stack of each of the teams. Maybe a couple of them, like if DeGrom is pitching KC against Ohtani today, I don't think I'd put a stack in, but usually I try and get close to as many as I can. I'm not really doing that today. I'm Xing out multiple teams just so I can hone in on the stacks that I want to get today. And then I'll spread out my pitchers. And so Detroit, Colorado, Miami, Cleveland, Oakland, Washington, Boston, Kansas City, St. Louis, every single one of those teams, I'm just completely Xing out of my pool today. I'm going to get very small portions of San Francisco, the Mets, a very small portion of Minnesota. I liked them a lot more earlier in the day, but the fact that it's going to be snowing and like 30 in the 30s or low 40s, whatever it's going to be, I'm not very interested in getting there a lot now. Houston and Atlanta, high upsides. I'll get to bits of them, but probably not a ton. Same with the Blue Jays, maybe just a little bit. And I want to really focus in on a couple of the top stacks that we have on the board, like Baltimore and like Philly. The Yankees, fine. Toronto, fine. But Philly and Baltimore, 2 stacks that everybody else is going to be getting to, but they're in great position, so I want to get there too. And then the 2 teams that I'm looking to get the most heavily overweight on in tournaments are going to be Seattle and Texas, who I know that you like as well today.
Yeah, I think those are some good talking points. And I think if you look at this first game of the slate with Baltimore, you're getting some pretty nice projected ownership numbers for tournaments. There's not a single batter in that lineup, TJ, that's projected to be owned 10% or higher at the moment here. So what kind of Michael Lorenzen are you going to get? The guy's a bit of a wild card. He does give up some hard contact. He has progressed more as a pitcher the past couple of seasons, but if he has control issues and he gets yanked early and you're into a Detroit Tigers bullpen game, then you got to be licking your chops with those Orioles stacks as well. And this is not the Orioles team of 5 years ago. These guys are young and they're good and they hit the ball. So I like your thoughts with the Orioles quite a bit. And just to move chronologically here, the Phillies. I mean, Noah Davis had a nice shutout start against Seattle recently. He has struggled mightily against lefties though, and his numbers in the minors against lefties were really bad as well. So I think the Phillies are interesting. I know they got shut out yesterday. I know that was a total egg, but I like going back to the lefties in this lineup and sprinkling in some righties. In the minors, Davis had a 308, 414, 592 slash and gave up 17 homers and just 240 at-bats to lefties. So, this is screaming Schwarber. I think Schwarber is one of my favorite bats, and, it's such a spread-out slate that he's not even close to pushing 15, 20%. I think you can go to Brandon Marsh, who's just swinging one of the hottest sticks in the league right now, too. So I like getting to these lefties, and of course, Bryson Stott's been setting the table at the top of that lineup as well. So just to start there with those 2 stacks, I think it makes sense, and I think they'll give Aaron Nola a pretty damn good opportunity to get a win in those extra points on FanDuel as well.
Yeah, 100%. And the guy like Kyle Schwarber at $3,100 on FanDuel, like this is the first play you're plugging into cash games today. I think this ownership is going to go up a lot throughout the day. I can't imagine we only see him staying at 12, 13% ownership. If we do, I'm going to try and get 30%. But I think we're likely going to see that get up over 20% today. And then that will be the case where maybe you got to think maybe I don't one off him. Maybe I only stack him in my Philly stacks, or if I am one offing him, it's with a bit of a contrarian lineup. And then like Bryson Stott, you're in cash today, you're basically choosing between Gleyber Torres and Bryson Stott. Like these guys are both underpriced, both probably leading off in great spots. So definitely wanting to look at those guys today. I like the Philly call as well. Let's save Texas for last because I know both of us are very interested in getting to them today. The Angels are in a great spot, but it's always less exciting when you can't stack them up with Shohei Ohtani. Mike Trout's in a great spot today. I really like Taylor Ward at $3,200 as well. The San Diego and Arizona game I think is very interesting. I'm more personally interested in the Arizona side. Like we got the same total for both of these teams, but I'm more interested in Gallen than I am San Diego. And then the Arizona side I think is very interesting for tournaments, kind of up and down the lineup. But Seattle is another one I want to focus on. This is one of my favorite teams for tournaments today. Not that Steven Matz is horrific or anything like that, but this is a lineup that just really smashes left-handed pitching. And Steven Matz is a phenomenal pitcher to lefties, not so much to righties. He gives up almost a 200 ISO. His strikeout rate is 31% to lefties, only 24 to righties, which isn't bad. But when it's accompanied with a near 200 ISO, a below 40% ground ball percentage, almost a 30% line drive percentage, and a 40% hard hit rate, all of a sudden, it's kind of something like a Sean Manaea. You look at Sean Manaea's overall numbers, and it's like, wow, this guy's decent. And then you look specifically to right-handed batters, and it's like, wow, he's horrific. Matz is kind of similar to that, but not quite as bad. And so J-Rod, Suarez, Teoscar Hernandez, Rowley, Pollock, just love these guys for tournaments today.
Couldn't agree more. One of my home run picks is in this lineup for betting odds purposes. I think you'll find some friendly odds on them. But yeah, there's a ton of right-handers and switch hitters from the right side that can just do a ton of damage here. And Matt's been pretty good against lefties, but he's been so bad against righties. I think he's given up 4 barrels so far this season, which is, about right. And I think this is just a great spot. Matt's line drive rate's pretty high too, and this is a team that likes to hit the ball in the gaps as well. So I love the Seattle call, little late night hammer action. If you're not sold on the full stack, I think you can easily and rationally, have a mini stack with 2 of these righty power hitters as well.
Yeah, I think with the way both of us have been hot lately with our home run calls, when we're on the same page, it's worth just clicking that button and making that bet because they've been going so well lately. And I'm with you. There's 2 guys in this game I really like to hit a home run today based on their odds. And one of the players I kind of want to touch on specifically at the end when we're going through home run picks, just of like their odds are broken. Their odds have been broken all year long, and they continue to be. We'll touch more on this at the end, but like home runs are up this year. And the sports books have been quick after the first week or so of the season to just like change these odds drastically. And now you're getting players in the plus 200s, the low plus 300s. And anytime you see somebody in the 400s, it's like, ooh, that's interesting. Whereas it was like 400 was bad at the beginning of the season. But there's been a couple players and a couple situations this year where sportsbooks seem to be slow to price these guys to an appropriate point versus guys like Schwarber and Judge who are like plus 250 every night. And one of them is in that game. So I want to make sure we talk about not just today's picks at the end, but kind of like the specific trends that we can focus on in the FanDuel Sportsbook here. But let's talk about my favorite team for tournaments. I think maybe your favorite team for tournaments, the Texas Rangers, facing
Woo!
Oakland and JP Sears, who is just awful against right-handed bats. A ton of great right-handed bats in this Texas lineup. And Oakland, I always like targeting Oakland pitchers outside of their home ballpark because built into their stats are what they do at home. And their home ballpark is probably the best pitcher's park in the entire league. And so now they're in Texas. Maybe we get an open roof. I don't know. I'm all
It is. It is going to be open tonight. Actually, I read online.
perfect.
Don't quote me on that, but maybe it'll be a confirmation a little bit later here. But you're right.
Says the it's open, and if he's
If it's
telling
wrong,
everybody he's a weatherman and he's
hate mail. I don't care. I got to tell you though, Ezekiel Duran was not the guy I expected to see catching early ownership on this team. I like this entire team. This is another righty heavy lineup where they have such a platoon advantage over Sears in the Texas ballpark with a potential open roof here. So who do you like in this team, and tell me why?
everybody.
That's fair.
That's going to be Duran batting second at basically, is he min price over here as well? Here, let me scroll over to Texas. Is Duran minimum price?
3,700 for Semien.
2,100, so just 100 more than minimum price. Like Semien, Duran, Garcia, Young. Is it Jung or Young? I don't know, but I'm going to play him either way in his 306 ISO in only 50 at bats to lefties, but I don't care. Jonah Heim, that's my favorite catcher on the slate. Taveras and Bubba Thompson, only in stacks. I don't need to play them. I don't really want to play them. But in 150 lineups, like, I don't like Xing players out in teams that I want to fully stack, even though their ISOs are just dreadful. Because the times, like, when you like a team and a guy randomly gets a home run, and then he's in a stack that scores multiple runs, like other guys hit him home, he's an 8 or 9 hitter, and he gets on base a couple times, and then every time those other guys knock him home, like, those are slate breaking type performances that nobody else is going to play. So I don't like Xing them out of my pool, but it's definitely 1 through 7 that is my priority list.
Couldn't agree more. I like this team a lot tonight. They've been doing some damage without Corey Seager, and I just feel like they go overlooked without Corey Seager a little bit because Josh Jung is kind of a post-type guy. He battled a ton of injuries last year, and by the end of May, I think he'll be a super hot commodity. People are just kind of finally being aware of Josh Jung, and Nate Lowe's pretty underrated. I know he's one of the lefties on this team, not like a top target of mine if I'm but I definitely would mix him in if I'm multi-entering Texas builds, right? Like, okay, he's lefty, still, got to get him in there, especially if this game goes nuts and maybe he gets 6 at-bats, right? Like, if this game goes nuts and you get XYZ hitter with 6 at-bats, it's all about the correlation, like, then I would prioritize, the Bubba Thompsons and the Taverases if you're giving me extra opportunities to score points. One of my best finishes last year, I had a Philly stack with Nick Matone when he was there. And it was a large field GPP, and I had I was not targeting him, but he was overweight on the Philly stack and had him in a couple of lineups, and that was the one that did the most work. He was 1% owned, and that's really, where it is. Just don't, they might not seem like they have upside, but everyone has a ceiling game once in a while. And, who are you to say it's not going to be the 2 RBI, 2 stolen base, and 2 run scored game for Bubba Thompson tonight? Don't quote me on that one either. I mean, it seems unrealistic. But TJ, you made a good point, and that's really where the unexpected top finishes come when you're getting these Leotis Tavares type players in those top 0.1% of your build. So we both like Texas, and that's cool that we agree on that.
Let's talk home run picks. And I want to go specifically to that situation that we were just talking about, because there's been a few players that I've found that although sportsbooks everywhere and the FanDuel Sportsbook has been pricing them up quick, that they're kind of late on. One of them being Pete Alonso. Now, this isn't a tonight play. I don't really love the spot he's in tonight. The odds aren't really great tonight, but keep an eye on that, because there's been multiple times all season where Pete Alonso just is plus 400, plus 450, while much lesser players are like plus 300. The next spot is Coors. It's not a Coors slate tonight, but sportsbooks have not been pricing, haven't been juicing up Coors for home runs. the other night when it was Pittsburgh and Colorado there, right? You don't really want to play Pittsburgh and Colorado. But I was just hammering the Andrew McCutchen home runs because he has a great ISO against left-handed pitching. He was facing Austin Gomber, and he was like plus 450 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So that was a really, really strong play that I liked kind of throughout that weekend in Coors Field. So keep an eye on that as well because they haven't been pricing that up. Next, my first home run call today, wrote this up in the expert survey. You're already at Milwaukee, so I'm wondering if maybe we have similar thoughts, but plus you can get around plus 400 for Rowdy Tellez, and he is one of my home run calls today. Secondly, we look at the Seattle team, and we got both Julio Rodriguez, who was the player I was talking about with the broken odds. He's plus 440 on the FanDuel Sportsbook today. Why? Why is Julio Rodriguez consistently over plus 400 when he is one of the best bats in the league and definitely the best bat on their team? And so that might have changed. I think he might only be about 400 on FanDuel now, but still strong odds. And like, I don't get it. Teoscar Hernandez, because it's a lefty and he's one of the best hitters in the league against lefties, best power hitters in the league against lefties. That's another one of my home run calls today, and I believe that is all I got cooking so far in the main slate. How about you, Luuch?
Yeah, I'm so happy that we're on the same page here. I told you not to tell me who the rest of your little list was because I hit you up earlier and I said I got a couple guys I like, and it's no surprise that some of these guys are on Texas. I want to build a following for this because I like what we do here, and we've got some pretty strong feedback. So I don't care if I give away some picks. Check out Scores and Odds. Check out, when TJ is on Crunch Time and Grinders Live all the time, and his home run calls are pretty elite too. So Jonah Heim's better than 5-1 on some sports books, and still a pretty decent number across the board. So I like him. I think Jung is in a good spot. You got to pay a little more for Josh Jung. And this is not part of the script, but you can even check my timestamp on Scores and Odds. About, 40 minutes ago, I wrote up Julio Rodriguez to go deep on Seattle. So I love that we're on the same page there. I looked on Baseball Savant. I mean, listen, we have great tools here, but I use the entire World Wide Web to do research, as everyone does. And J-Rod had a 65% hard hit rate against sinkers last season. That was his best pitch. And Steven Matz throws like borderline 50% of sinkers to righties. So again, Matz doesn't have a super fly ball rate, but the line drive rate's through the roof. And if anyone's going to turn and hit a piss missile, it's J-Rod, right? Like, he's the guy that's going to hit a line drive out of the park tonight. I think I love that call. I love that we're on the same page. And yes, Mr. Tellez on Milwaukee. I wanted to mention Milwaukee as a kind of a large field stack, and I like this spot quite a bit for a home run as well. Nick Pivetta is a guy like I've been picking on with a couple of lefty power bats this whole year. He's a nice little pitcher, but Vinny P has been a winner for me earlier this year. Some of those lefty power bats here, and he throws mostly fastball, curveball to lefties, and that is right into Les's wheelhouse, TJ. So I'm super excited that we're kind of on the same page. We don't really always agree, right? I mean, but the fact that we're making some decent calls, and of course, like, whatever you're betting home runs on, they're all plus money for a reason. It's so volatile. I mean, you can get an 0 for 4 day, 3 balls hit to 3 of the 4 hits to the warning track, and you get nothing out of it. So, please like bet responsibly, especially when you're messing around with plus money stuff here. Like, I'm throwing like a quarter unit on my home run picks at, like 25% of what I would normally bet. And when you're riding a heater, it's hard to stay disciplined. It really is. But you got to stick to it, and please wager on these home run picks, and whatever you're stringing together at crazy odds responsibly, because it's all about the long game here, and taking that whatever percent ROI you make and being happy with it. But Spidey bombs, Luuch bombs, I mean, we're kind of crossing paths here, and I'm pretty excited about it. One last guy, and you mentioned Schwarber, and I would love to bet on Schwarber to hit a home run, but I don't want to pay inside a 3-1 for a home run pick, but kind of like Brandon Marsh, he's like plus 750. I mean, what are we doing here? He's hot, right? I mean, plus 750. And now, since I'm just rambling and you're making faces at me, Josh Lowe's not on this slate, but Michael Kopech gives up the second most barrels in the league. He's like plus 800. Josh Lowe, phenomenal year. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally off here, but those are a bunch of guys I like. I'm going to shut up now and give it back to you.
You've been the opposite of totally off. I love the Brandon Marsh call. Plus 700 on our sponsor site, FanDuel. Phenomenal. Jonah Heim, plus 560 on our sponsor site, FanDuel. Great. I absolutely love it. Bet responsibly, but I love all of these calls today as well. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another edition of FanDuel Friday. Luuch and I will be back next week. From our sponsor, FanDuel, all the great people at RotoGrinders, producer Steve behind the scenes here, going to be doing the editing on this one. We thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Peace. See ya.